I told you when we started talking about should we do a decaf show, my position is I consider it the equivalent of doing a show on the search for low THC marijuana.
It's interesting, I was on a panel with Canadian Coffee Association about decafs. The head of the Swiss Water Company was on the panel, and he made a very interesting point, which is that people are beginning to modulate the amount of their caffeine. It's no longer, perhaps with many coffee drinkers, it's not a either or, it's not a binary. Mm-hmm. And that's supported by the fact that at Coffee Review we're getting more and more half-calf coffees. It's a very creative opportunity too for technology and coffee roasters, so it interests me that way too.
And I would say the side for decaf, on the other hand, is, and basically for you and me, I think we are at the level where coffee is more about taste than it is the caffeine. You know, I mean, that's primarily, otherwise, I was only interested in caffeine. The least expensive cup of coffee at any gas station will supply me. It is about taste. Yes, if we can get fine tasting decafs, I'm all for it. I just haven't had them yet.
We've had 5 tastings at Coffee Review over the 20 years or so, 25 years, maybe 6 tastings of decafs, reports where we gather a lot of decaffeinated coffees and taste them. It's a pretty dismal record over those many years. One of the issues is not taking the caffeine out, but the fact that the roasters are not treating decaffeinated coffees with care and respect. Last couple tastings we had, it seemed like the reasons that the best ones popped was that they were fresh. They had come into the roasting company fairly recently, so they hadn't gotten old. Decafs don't keep very well as green coffees. And also there's roasting. You know, the protocol of roasting has to be different and more sensitive for decafs. We've gotten the impression at Coffee Review, even though we haven't done a big tasting, they've improved. Mm-hmm. We've had 2 amazing 93 rated decaffeinated coffees, some in 89, 90, quite a few. Oh, that's unusual. I don't know how indicative that is of a general improvement on the consumer level.
Today I've picked out 6 coffees for us to try. Now usually we do 5. The reason I picked 6, I just felt like this is really going to come down to a survey, and I didn't want anyone to say, oh, well, it wasn't thorough enough. By the way, I already envision that we have to do multiple shows on decaf, but there are a lot of them out there. I was surprised when I surveyed them how many there are, and yes, it does look like there's more of an emphasis on quality than I remember in the past. But I've got a number of different processes. I've got some roasts that are different. In one case, I have a decaf that's, I think the varietal was chosen partly to be decaffeinated. I think some coffees will get in, I hope to discuss this with you, are certain single origin more appropriate for decaf? Will they decaffeinate better? And then of course there's the various processes. I think a lot of people might be curious about who thought of decaf. Is it that people were losing sleep in the early 20th century and suddenly occurred to them that, hey, maybe it's this coffee we're drinking?
I suspect it's just like anything else. It's people see a marketing opportunity. I should have refreshed my memory on this, but it's definitely a German laboratory, and Germans have always been particularly suspicious of caffeine. And I hope that's fair enough anyhow. Probably not anymore. I was in Berlin and got such great coffees and definitely very caffeinated. Yeah. I'm not going to even attempt to get the date, but I believe it was at the turn of the century. The first commercially available, widespread commercially available, used a solvent to remove the caffeine. They steam open the beans so the pores are open and the solvent selectively unites with the caffeine, and then you vaporize the solvent and wash the beans, and that's it. That's the direct solvent method, sometimes called the European method, because it's done by a lot of plants in Europe. Problem, of course, is the solvent, which trichloroethylene was used in the late 20th century. It proved to be carcinogenic. That was 1975. The EPA declared it a carcinogenic substance. So the switch to another solvent, methylene chloride. Now, there's no real evidence that methylene chloride of the quantities that are used in decaffeination hurts anybody. However, people don't like the idea. The direct solvent method with methylene chloride is probably what you get when you buy a European or a nameless decaf, one that doesn't name a process. It's almost certainly uses a solvent. Now, I would just say to people who are concerned about the solvent that it's very unlikely any solvent survives roasting, because
Right.
the solvent vaporizes at 104 degrees Fahrenheit. And as we know, roasting goes up 400 Fahrenheit. In other words, 4 times the evaporation point for the solvent. But some people just want purity of mind and body and coffee. So the water-only process was developed over a long period of time. The process, Kevin, starts with soaking some beans. I'm going to call them starter beans in hot water. After the soaking in the water, these starter beans are disposed of and the caffeine is filtered out of the water. Then fresh beans that they do want to decaffeinate, are put into the water. These new beans contain caffeine, but the water doesn't. So by a process called diffusion, the caffeine migrates into the water, leaving behind beans that, voila, have no caffeine, or very close to none. These beans are then dried and sold as water-only decaffeinated coffee. The caffeine is filtered out of the water, by the way, and the water is ready to suck the caffeine out of another set of beans. And it's a tribute to how persistent technology is that they've been able to get pretty good product. That I remember giving a Swiss Water, all-water process espresso a 90 back some years ago. The latest process that's gotten a lot of attention by specialty roasters uses a different solvent, ethyl acetate. Ethyl acetate is derived from sugar, basically, in fruit, or they use molasses often. It's basically more benign by far than methylene chloride. The solvent is directly applied to the beans in the ethyl acetate process. Because it comes from sugar, it has a tendency to sweeten the coffee a little bit, which, since I'm a sweet tooth coffee drinker, I kind of like that, but we'll see. I will probably you probably picked a couple. I'm ready, by the way, to pour.
Oh, you are ready. Well, I'm ready too.
Ask whatever you want about decaffeination. I invented it.
Well, it's a nice, delicate, gentle, kind of classic profile.
Yeah. Very
Washed,
fragrant.
Latin American, probably, maybe, possibly Africa. It's just sort of compressed. I think it's very nice. It just doesn't quite open up and with layers of aromatic possibility. But it's true that we've had other coffees that haven't opened up with multi-layered possibility also. What I've noticed, of course, with decafs is that the acidy brightness that some people love in coffee and others don't like is typically softened in...
It's muted, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the case here. I mean, but it's there. It's a at least in the nose, it's a vibrant. Well, what do you think?
I think if I were in a coffee shop and I was served this cup of coffee, I would really like it quite a bit. And I am anti-decaf, so I'm overcoming that.
Decaffeinated coffees often, at least in the past, when I've done all of these tastings, they often have a kind of a woody character. And I'm not getting that here. I'm getting a sort of a rounded, muted, delicate, in other words, not a forceful profile at all, but pleasant and balanced, of course. There's a little hint of dryness, of astringency, but not too much. The sweetness balances it. It fades pretty quickly in the finish. The flavors
there's not a long
fade
finish.
quickly.
That's absolutely, yeah.
As far as specific notes, they're rather generic. I'm getting stone fruit, some
Stone fruit, right.
apricot maybe. But there are floral notes, I think. Again, not very distinctive, sweet floral notes. Jasmine.
A lot of times things come to in a visual text. This is like a photograph that I took, and the sharpness was set lower. Just doesn't have as much detail. Yeah.
Right. That's very well said, Kevin. Right. It doesn't have detail. It's not articulated. The aromatic notes are not articulated and distinct. But the basic, what I call a structure, the balance of basic tastes and sweet, bitter, and tart are pleasantly coherent and satisfying.
Yeah, it's a very good cup. If I were anywhere and they served it to me, I would be very happy with it.
If I push a little bit, I find those wood notes are characteristic of some decafs. Certainly not lively and aromatic wood. It's more like a lumberyard wood, but it's not unpleasant really, and it's not that prominent. It doesn't sit on anything. So what is this, Kevin? Can we?
Okay. Oh, let me. No, that's it. That's part of the package. I thought it was a note.
It's George Howell.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well,
It's a
it
very
should be
distinctive-
good,
I'm sorry.
George.
George, yes, George.
Columbia.
Yeah.
Jardin.
Columbia. It's a Colombian
Decaf.
Jardin. Yeah, decaf. And it is methylene chloride. I was able to find one.
Does it say it's a direct solvent or indirect?
I don't think he gets into that kind of detail. He didn't on the website. I'm just looking to know. It's a Colombian coffee, a washed, no doubt it's a washed.
One of the generalizations that came out in discussing decaffeinated coffees at panel was it could be that the solvent methods preserve more of the coffee, the genuine coffee. They interfere less in the cup. I think that this is quieted. As a high altitude Columbia coffee, it should be much more forceful in the acidity, have a heavier mouthfeel. Pleasant mouthfeel though. It has some viscosity. Does he call it European process or?
Germany, says processed in Germany.
Yeah. That's a good start, but that's setting the bar rather high. That's what they say.
Yeah,
that sets
okay.
the bar rather high.
I want to just point out, if anyone's curious to try this, now is the time, because I spoke with George directly about this coffee, and he said, that's the last one I'm using this process with. He said he's switching to other processes. He didn't give me a reason why he's switching, but I think historically, someone who's really interested might want to try it just to taste it, because it's typical. Let's put it this way: it's typical of a really high quality, decaffeinated coffee, in that it's still a good coffee. It is grown really high too. You're right, 5,100 to 6,900 feet. I mean, that ought to be more brightness, frankly, to this, but
Well,
still,
yeah,
it's a
but we're,
decent
yeah,
coffee.
decaffeination definitely rounded and simplified it, but there's a lot pleasant that's been left in the cup. I think probably when people who drink decaf only in the evenings, they don't want to get anything too exciting anyhow, right? I want to sort of calm themselves for the bed.
If you really want to calm yourself, you can always go to instant decaf, as a Sanka.
Don't get snotty about decaf.
I'm getting flippant, really. I know.
I'm going to stand up for the rights and prerogatives of the decaf drinker. I should say that we've been dropping George Howell's name. George is one of the greats of specialty coffee. He started Coffee Connection, which was a kind of a lighter roasting version of Pete's in Boston at the very start of the specialty coffee movement, and later sold it, became a consultant because he had a non-compete for 10 years. So George did some amazing work in those 10 years, and one of his pieces of work was collaborating on starting the Cup of Excellence. He was one of 3 people who thought of the first Cup of Excellence. And now, of course, green coffee competitions are everywhere. Huge amounts of money are paid for the winning coffees. I think George and Silvia Leite, who is a Brazilian man, a great coffee taster, still working in Brazil. A man named Marcelo Vieira. The 3 of them, another Brazilian, came up with the concept. Then George, in 2004, George was the first in the middle of all of the dark roasting. George, I believe, was the first coffee company to offer only single origin coffees, medium to light roasted. In other words, George really started the third wave.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is associated with younger roasters, but George took the first step, and still at it.
Yeah, I think there's a wide appreciation of that too with the other third wave roasters. I think they always look to George as kind of the mentor of it, and which he was. I remember I actually would route my travel. I frequently went to Ireland at the time, and I would route my travel through Boston just mostly so I could stop at the Coffee Connection. And it was George, and I'm sure some HR person's watching now and is going to try to bill me back for that, but it was a little extra. But I met George, I met Robert Ditala, his roast master, and I was like a fanboy.
I like the concept of coffee, not the caffeine.
Of course, one always has to recalibrate as you go from the first coffee, tends to predispose one. And particularly, we're predisposed by this very light, delicate, balanced, classic cup. This is not light, delicate, and balanced, but I sense that there is value in it. It's lower toned. It does have wood notes, I think, are prominent, but they're aromatic wood. I think we can call them cedar. They're kind of deep. Definitely. Getting like a molasses sweetness.
Sweet, yeah.
There's a fruit in there. Bring up some good association with the fruit. I have a fig tree next to the lab here, and I tasted a fig yesterday. So
really?
Maybe fresh fig, not dried fig, but fresh fig. I think I'd call the flowers a kind of a lily,
I might have smelled some melon, but I'm not sure if I got that.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, that's very good, as a matter of fact. It's sort of like it's even a cantaloupe, I think.
Cantaloupe, yeah, that would be it, yes.
That's very good. I just missed that one. That's better than the fig. I suppose that molasses, if you were a publicist, you'd want to call the molasses honey,
yeah,
but I don't think it is.
Anything, some sort of sweet note.
But it's a kind of a syrupy sweetness.
Yeah.
Well, so we found, I think, a lot of value in the nose on this coffee.
Yeah.
You know, I could make a generalization based on these two coffees that maybe decafs tend to taste the way they smell more than regular coffees.
Mm-hmm.
One way of thinking about the difference between this coffee and the first one, the George Howell coffee, is that George Howell coffee really tasted like coffee. And this one is pleasant, but it sort of moves away from the norm for coffee. I know I'm drinking coffee.
You're right, and very interesting you mentioned that. But George started talking to me about a new project he has in his notes for his coffees to have a rating of how coffee-like a coffee is. The taste of coffee. I mean, I actually got off the phone. Our phone call with George was about the equivalent of 2 cups of coffee. Because I got off the phone very stimulated from this. The taste is coffee.
George may be thinking, too, about all of these anaerobic coffees that they deviate from expectations for coffee, and for some people they deviate in an exciting way, and for other people they deviate in a disappointing way. But this, at any rate, is not a classic cup. Wonderful mouthfeel. I don't know, wonderful, but full for sure.
Nice viscosity, yeah.
I'm really tasting the lilies that have been maybe sitting in the vase a little too long.
Yeah.
I never found that particular sensation unpleasant.
No.
Is a kind of a low-tone, lush lily a note for me, floral note. I think the fruit, I could still get the cantaloupe, but the fruit seems more like dried fruit to me in the cup. Prune, raisin, dried fig. Yeah, it lacks that freshness that the fruit had in the nose. But not bad.
Not bad.
I can imagine some people might like this better than the George Howell #1. It has fuller body. A lot of coffee drinkers really look to that mouth-filling body, and this has it. Yeah. And it's clean. I mean, the finish is clean.
Clean cup.
The wood notes the wood character sort of dampens the aromatic high notes a little, but it doesn't dominate. So it's a nice coffee. What is this?
Oh, I was going to pull it up. I just realized. This is Copper Moon. Now, they've been to Coffee Con, so that's where I've met them. Where are they? I think they're in Indiana. Lafayette, Indiana.
Swiss water, meaning water only, no solvent used. And it's organic. Where is it? Do they mention origin for the green beans?
Yeah, I talked to Jennifer at Copper Moon, and she said it's mostly Colombian. It's a blend, and I said, "Can you tell me what's in the blend, or do you have to kill me?" And she said, "No, I can tell you." She said, "I can tell you it's mostly Colombian."
Okay.
That's not really telling me the whole components.
It's interesting that the Colombia is one of its kind of standard descriptors for Colombia is that it has a richness and viscosity, full body, and this has that. It's interesting that the George Howell doesn't. It's comes out rather delicate. So I assume that may be something to do with the process. I am not going to make any macho jokes about decaf, okay?
Then I fear I must. I will demonstrate the well-known German sense of humor.
The decaffeination process may be sitting on this coffee a little more than the last two. One knows one's smelling coffee.
I think I can smell origin in this.
Oh, really? Maybe I'm just in a rut here, but well, I guess what I'd go with instead of wood, I'd go with leather handbag that you just purchased as a gift to use, and smelling the fresh leather. There's some sweetness back there, deep in this profile, a kind of, I guess, flowers.
Yeah.
You're getting that? It's kind of very perfumey, but it's not out in front. I don't know what floral. It would be an unusual flower, I think. Not the typical rose, lily, be a kind of a jasmine or night blooming flower. How about butterscotch in this one?
Yeah.
I'm getting very clear butterscotch now that came to mind. Yeah, again, it's interesting. It's not a characteristic coffee nose, but it's interesting and not unpleasant at all. Here, I'm getting a little bit of negative.
How so?
Well, kind of a metallic edge.
I'm not getting it myself, but that doesn't mean maybe I just haven't sensed it yet.
How about the lumberyard?
Yeah, woody. I'm getting some wood.
Okay, let's stick with wood. Sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Has a nice finish. You notice? I mean,
yeah,
it's not
finish is nice. It's a little longer, but it's not super long. It would strike me as a normal coffee. I mean, a regular coffee. Doesn't say decaf to me.
Well, I'm thinking that this finish is balanced and sweet. It doesn't have a lot of astringency or drying or sharpness. Astringency comes up in the long finish. Mouthfeel is pleasant. It is not as full as number 2. Copper Moon.
Is that it, right? Hang on.
Yeah. Sounds right.
Copper Moon.
Well, I'm ready to reveal on this one.
Okay, this is interesting. Coffee Bean Direct, a roaster I don't think I'm familiar with. The reason I sought them out is they have a CO₂ decaf.
Oh. Another Columbia.
Another Colombian, yes. They said, oh, you definitely want to try the CO₂. Our feedback from customers is it tastes the most like a regular coffee. They felt this was the best one.
I haven't tasted enough CO₂ to have any generalizations. The process has certainly taken the edge off the coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Soften the acidity. The floral notes, I associate floral notes with good high-grown coffee, typically. They're coming on as it cools, I think, for me.
As it cools, I'm noticing a more significant change.
I think it's cooling very nicely. Now I'm getting some cocoa notes that I didn't before.
Yeah,
pretty clearly. It's damn nice now that it's cooling.
Yeah, well, we're handed this, and the person said nothing about the cup. I would not identify it as a decaf. The way I'm drinking it now.
Yeah, again, it's limited, but what's there is quite pleasing, I think. This is a ingratiating cup for me. It's a cup that really wants to please you and not put you off. Not putting you off with bitterness, not putting you off with brightness. It's not confusing you with too much aromatic complexity, but what's there is pleasing. Yeah, it's all right. I mean, again, I wouldn't call it classic coffee in any way at all, but it's certainly a kind of satisfying, ingratiating cup. Quite nice.
You know, Ken, you know what I notice? Oh, this decaf.
I'm hard put to find much going on in the aroma of this coffee. In the coffee review, there's certain kind of wood note that we call ironing board note. I don't know. I don't iron.
I was going to say, do you do a lot of ironing? I don't.
No, my mother sure ironed a lot when I was a little kid.
Yeah. Oh, I love the smell of the ironing board. I really did. I used to hang out with my mother while she did stuff like that.
Yeah, me too. Kind of drill down and see if I can get some other things to call or talk about. Sweet. And there's a sort of essence of coffee note in there somehow.
Yeah, this does have that, yes.
Take away all the other associations, it's still coffee.
Well, that's an important one.
Yeah, it sure is. And it's one that the preceding two coffees weren't so big on. So there's a fruit, maybe dried, some kind of dried fruit. Possibly like flowers that are drying out.
Yeah, muted, yes. Let me see if I can imagine with you.
Maybe, what's that chocolate substitute?
Chocolate substitute. I know, like I think health food store.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is that? I don't know. Hey, anybody out there, can you help us? What's a chocolate substitute? What is this? Carob?
Carob.
Carob? Are we talking about carob? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Dennis, fantastic. Thank you.
So maybe this is more like carob than chocolate.
Yeah, like it is more like carob. It tries to be chocolate. Yeah.
Maybe
so does this.
Some prune. That's about it. I'm going to taste it because I am defeated in an effort to find more notes in the aroma. This is what I associate with many of the not so good decafs. Let me be positive on one note, that the mouthfeel is nice.
Oh, mouthfeels, yeah. It's
quite
got a very
nice.
good viscosity.
Yeah, it's very balanced and lightly syrupy, kind of plush. The balance of the flavors and the aromatics. I can't even think of anything colorful and critical to say.
Where's Dave Chappelle when you need him?
Woody. Maybe, how about old prunes? Some kind of dried fruit in which the flavor is not very pronounced. Well, it has sweetness, and the sweetness carries nicely into the finish. It has good mouthfeel. Okay. Now I'm going towards cardboard in the cup. Have anything more to save the day here?
I wish I could say something more positive, but I don't know that I can. Let's see. Hold on. There are a number of things that can be wrong that aren't wrong, such as being over roasted or something like that. Any of those problems are non-existent here, but I certainly don't sense a chemical taste of any kind. Just tastes a little flat to me. I'm trying to do all this tasting without giving any allowances for them being decaf. They're just their coffee. This one is not.
Okay, let's take a look.
And this uses sugarcane.
Uh-oh. Sugarcane decaf is a term that's applied to coffee that's been decaffeinated using the solvent ethyl acetate, which is derived from, usually from, some ways from sugar, usually molasses. But
it certainly sounds more natural.
Yeah, right. So
it's a Columbia.
Yeah, right.
No
Another
surprise.
Columbia. And boy, I'm surprised because usually the sugarcane or the ethyl acetate, the caffeinated coffees I've had, have shown better than this.
Here's their tasting Finca Mustafa in Colombia, fully washed sugar cane decaffeinated, notes of clementine, green apple, and nougat. You get anything like that? I don't really recall.
I'm getting green apple in the finish.
Green apple in the finish, okay. I certainly want to like it. It's a roaster's in Arizona, by the way. And
what's the name of the roaster, Kevin?
Pejoto, I think it is. I think of the way. Pechoto,
probably.
Pechoto,
Yeah.
yes. And really a pleasure to deal with them and everything. And they seemed very enthusiastic. They were very happy. We were interested in trying their process with the sugarcane decaf, and that's really what attracted me. I don't want to not like it, but I can't.
Yeah, right.
Ask whatever you want about decaffeination. I invented it.
I'm afraid I'm getting wood, ironing board. Trying to find some spice of some kind, and perhaps dried fruit, maybe fresh fruit, maybe plum. But again, it's a very reduced, subdued aroma. Not unpleasant, but certainly not exciting. Simple. Good sweetness. Now I'm thinking the fruit is dried cherry.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
overly
interesting.
specific, but
Cherry.
nut.
Yeah.
Maybe some nuts here, some sweet nuts. Cashew. Yeah,
Cashew?
I can get cashew now. Well, that's something. There's some generic floral notes, perhaps. But there's that ironing board, that sort of moist, hot cloth.
Is that the decaf, do you think, is the decaffeination method is giving us that?
Yes.
That's been a recurrent note today.
It's, I think, a symptom of the fact that you're taking the caffeine out and you're taking other stuff out with it. That's a kind of a note, sort of associated perhaps with the cellulose. I think that's unfair to get into that because I'm getting a lot more than cellulose here. It is all subdued, softened, if you want to be positive.
Yes.
I keep coming back to there's a kind of a floral toned molasses that I'm getting. Well, I'm giving up on the aroma and having a sip here. There's not much here, and it's a lot of wood, and I'm afraid maybe even a little metallic edge to the wood.
Mm.
Maybe it's just the fact that I'm not getting caffeine, and so I'm getting worn down. But
let's talk about that. Is caffeine a flavor enhancer, a stimulant to the taste buds? It's a stimulant.
I have no idea.
Well, I don't either, but
You can't taste it, I know, because I've tasted it.
we're tasting the absence of it, in effect, are we? I mean, I understand this isn't purely scientific, but it is one of the stages of scientific inquiry is observation, and certainly both of us are practiced observers. I give me credit for that. I drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. But I would say what I want to squash is any sense that the caffeine adds to the taste, and that when you take that's such a simplistic idea that's been beaten down so long that I didn't even think of it. But you're not taking out anything in the caffeine itself. Should have said this at the beginning of the show. It's the process of removing the caffeine.
Yes. Sure. Yeah. It's a heavy-handed process. When you started explaining what Swiss water involves, my first thought is, wow, I'm amazed it tastes as much like coffee as it does.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
It's a heavy-handed process. It's not something slight.
A lot of complications to that water-only process, nuance, and that I won't get into. I should say, too, that there's another water-only decaffeination process and company. It's called Mountain Water, and it's in Mexico. But the process is essentially the same as Swiss water. I think what disappoints me with this cup is that the structure is not that pleasing. It's no acidy brightness, no lift to it that I can get. The sweetness is there, it's available, but not in any exciting or dramatic way. It's not even very bitter. Sort of neutral. Yeah.
As it cools, I'm getting something. To me, there's kind of a low taste. I wish I could come up with the note.
Start talking around it. It's pleasant.
It's pleasant. I'm getting a pleasant, really subdued, admittedly, but pleasant note low on it as it cooled.
What is it, Kevin? Can we identify it?
Let's unveil it, because I had some high hopes for this. This is one of my favorite coffees is Sumatra. And I happen to really like this roaster's Sumatra, their caffeinated Sumatra. Sumatra too.
Orange Daily Roast.
Yeah, it's Orange,
Is
New
he
York,
in Manhattan?
New York City. Yes, he is. As people in Manhattan tell me, that is New York.
Yes, I know. To me, Origin is not a good one for decaf. I mean, this is a kind of a standard idea in coffee that you want more pronounced and brighter, higher grown, denser bean for decaffeination. So in that case, I'm afraid that I would agree. I mean, we don't know really how much the origin character of the coffee contributes to its decaffeinated taste.
We don't know, partly because I know for this tasting we wouldn't know, but I'm so familiar with their Sumatra, which is one of my favorites. I mean, generally, he just seems to really go out of his way to get some interesting Sumatras. But this, I also don't know if that has any relevance with the one that he had the choice of for decaf. You can never assume that it's the same source of the caffeinated version at any roaster.
No, it's usually not, I think. Typically, the roaster does not buy the coffee and then send it for decaffeination. The roaster buys the coffee decaffeinated. Probably tries to or does influence the choice of the coffee and the process through the decaffeination. Well, we have a very dark roasted coffee here.
Yeah, we do.
With a bittersweet character of the roast. It's very prominent. It is sweet as well as bitter, so I'll give it that. It's not too scorchy to me.
Not too scorchy, right. I've heard a number of roasters tell me that they roast their coffees darker when they're decaffeinated. If they have a Guatemalan coffee, their decaf version of it will be darker roasted. Not necessarily as dark as this. This is pretty dark.
Anybody who out there is a home roaster knows that decaffeinated coffees start out brown. They look roasted before you roast them. Yeah. Often roast very quickly. You have to be very tactful with the with the heat.
Quicker than usual.
You know, I'm getting smoked meat in here a little bit, though. That's a characteristic of some dark roast coffees that I find not pleasant. I kind of, a nice bittersweetness, sort of molasses and scorched wood, which is fine. But then there's also this little smoked meat edge.
Yeah.
As typical with very dark roast coffees, there's a kind of a floral top note floating above the profile. Kind of a sweet floral note.
Yeah, okay.
You know, jasmine, lilac.
Jasmine.
Yeah, but it's sort of not integrated with the sensation as a whole, at least to me.
Right, it's interesting. It is it's a layer, separate layer with a border on it.
Very, very roasty nuts notes, I think. Walnuts are very typical of dark roasted coffees, but I'm not getting walnut here. Maybe peanuts, which is generally not desirable in coffee.
Yeah, it's unusual too. It's far more common in a lighter roast.
Well, I tell you, given the dark roast, it's not as
surprising,
bitey and unpleasant as I expected.
I expected it more so.
I guess you have to give it to the decaffeination in this case. If it were ordinary high-grown coffee, not decaffeinated, brought this to this darker roast, it would be a lot more bitter, I think.
Interesting. It smooths it out.
Right. It dries out in the finish, though. The astringency kind of pushes up under the sweetness in the finish. People often look for chocolate in dark roasts. I'm looking for it. Maybe finding it a little bit. Kind of a very dark, 65% cacao kind of dark chocolate.
Yeah. It's dark chocolate, though. It's not carob.
No, that's for sure. Now the finish is sort of smoothing for me.
Yeah.
Quieting down.
I'm pretty public about not caring for super dark roasted coffees. It's not my first choice. This is a pleasant enough coffee for me that I probably would be okay with it. And other than knowing that it's decaf, I would attribute some of the smoothing to the decaffeination. It's a positive thing.
I agree. Yeah, some of the bitter astringency that you get in extreme dark roasts seems to be softened and mellowed out. There's a drying in the long finish, because typically with a really pronounced dark roast, the finish for me is not pleasant. It's typically astringent. This is not bad, the long finish.
Yeah.
I'm talking after a minute or two after you've swallowed it. There's a little bit of that chocolate there with the charry wood. And I think the charred wood retains a certain aromatic element. It's not scorched old board. It's sort of scorched cedar.
I'm getting some other things that may be more pleasant.
I'm looking for raisin or something like that, some dried fruit, but I'm not really getting it. I am getting that chocolate, that very dark chocolate.
Yeah.
Sometimes at coffee review we say richly charred cedar.
Richly charred cedar. Well, that's
right.
As
opposed
nice
to this sort of charred wood that is so bitey that you can't tolerate it. This is a richly charred, fairly richly charred.
The note of house fire. Yeah.
Well, is this some Notorious Roasters decaf, Starbucks,
Yeah,
Pete's.
No, this is a notorious small batch roaster. This is Craven's Coffee. I don't know if the audience is familiar with Craven. Craven is in Spokane, Washington. Bing Crosby's hometown. And by the way, one of the reasons I sought it out was because this is mountain water process.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm. So again, for the audience, Mountain Water is a brand name or a water-only decaf. And Mountain Water, which is located in Mexico,
Yeah.
they do a good job. As does Swiss Water. It's almost irrelevant with a coffee roasted this dark that's been decaffeinated to ask what the origin of the bean is.
Let me see if I can find out.
Doesn't matter, Kevin. I mean, it's probably high-grown coffees because it stood up the double whammy of decaffeination and dark roasting, and it still retains some character. It must be a pretty tough coffee.
If anyone's curious, it's called Dexter's Decaf. I don't know who Dexter is. It's a Mexican natural. I did find my note. I was overlooking it.
Well, that's interesting. So it's been dried in the whole fruit. Probably is a fairly high-grown coffee from Chiapas. Again, the coffee had good character, I think, to carry through the roast and the decaffeination both. I've been impressed at Coffee Review with some of the Mountain Water decafs that we've tested. It's a good company, does a good job, as does Swiss Water. They're both very attuned to their buyers, their constituencies, and trying very hard to maintain and improve quality. You're going to put these in order now?
Yeah, I think we can put them in order.
I must say, in terms of the processes, I'm disappointed by the one example of ethyl acetate or sugarcane decaf, because we've had some very good ones at Coffee Review. This one is not very good.
3. Okay.
Because I kind of liked it this time as I go through the cups.
Yeah. And typically, I don't know whether it's just the temperature as coffee's cool or if it's a settling process of types, but I find coffees tend to get better.
Right. Well, I have to put George's coffee first.
Yes.
Howell.
George is going to stay there, yeah.
Yeah, George Howell, Columbia methylene chloride solvent. Although it was muted, some of the characteristics and power of the coffee were muted by the decaffeination. It retained. It was muted but complete, I thought.
Yeah.
Number 2, I have a hard time choosing a number 2.
I don't. I'm going to say the CO₂ one. This one would be number 2 for me.
So I think my number 2 is a big drop-off from number 1. So there's not much there, but it's sort of clean. The other possibility for the second choice would be ethyl acetate, the sugarcane decaf. The profile is distorted by the sugar, by the sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sort of pleasant. Sort of watery in the finish, but has some character. Beyond that, Kevin, I'm not interested in ranking.
Oh, okay.
I guess number 3 is kind of pleasantly neutral. What was number 3?
It's the CO₂.
Yeah. That's a good one. The dark roast is just so dark, but a dark roast drinker will find it satisfying, I think.
Yeah, I would think so.
So I'm just, maybe it's drinking decaf has kept me from reaching the highs of my of my evaluative faculties, but
We are. Yeah. We are
that's as
damning
far
with
as I
faint
can
praise.
what about you?
George owns it. George does the one that is the most like a normal lighter roasted coffee that I would drink for taste and just enjoy it. And if I had a
Right.
cup like this after dinner at night, I could sacrifice the slight differences that there's some muted stuff going on that even George can't overcome apparently. But it's damn good, and I think I actually think this is the noteworthy. We're 100% in agreement on that. Putting this one number 2, boy, I'm not sure. I think I would go number 2 with the CO₂ one, but you know, to me they're kind of swappable. I actually thought the Copper Moon was pretty good. I'd say these 3 would be tied for second place. I'd say
Okay.
4 because I can't believe that I can enjoy dark roasted coffee, and maybe I don't expect as much, but I thought this was certainly drinkable. It didn't. It's partly because the roast in a dark roast coffee, to me, the roast trumps everything else. Sorry to use that word for some people. And then I'm very sorry because this person is someone I greatly admire on the level of George, but I don't blame him. I think he is. I know he's a devotee of Sumatra the same way, and I just thought I had to try it. And I absolutely love his caffeinated Sumatra picks. No matter what time of year it is, he seems to find a good one, and not the decaf.
Okay. I think I'm with you actually in clustering those choices at number 2. If there's a learning here for me, it's a disappointing one, which is that we probably will see fewer and fewer methylene chloride decafs, and yet they probably the process may be better for the coffee, easier on the character of the coffee, perhaps, than the water processes, which are winning the field. To be kind of blunt and controversial, that the health concern about the trace of solvent in a coffee, given that the solvent evaporates at 100 degrees and coffee is roasted to 400. And there's not much in there anyhow. The amount allowed by the EPA is tiny. Really, it's a kind of a publicity push by the water process. But I mean, they're worthy people doing a worthy job, trying hard to produce a good coffee. And again, George Howell, the roaster, may have chosen a particularly fine so I'm not sure it's characteristic of all methylene chloride or European processes, but I'm a little disappointed, frankly, by the array. On the other hand, I didn't taste any that had a really odd, repulsive decaf taste.
Right.
They're all reasonable.
Yeah, it's what they seem to remove, or what is removed in the process, that is hard to put back. To put the genie back in the bottle is the phrase. It seems difficult, and yes, the methylene chloride seems to be pretty darn close to a regular coffee.
I think that the CO₂ sample, not very exciting, even more subdued than the methylene chloride sample, the Howell coffee sample. But I thought it had promise. I thought in a way it was a cleaner kind of decaf process than the others. I'm looking forward to trying to dig some more of those out. The CO₂ process. CO₂ process is compressed, and so it becomes a liquid and selectively unites with the caffeine and then is evaporated out of the beans. So it's a form of a solvent process, but the solvent, of course, is quite benign.
It's very clever. Whether it is as clever as methylene chloride, which admittedly has a name that would that scares the modern consumer. Admittedly, it sounds like a chemistry experiment, and I get it. The people don't want that. Seems to be a worry about nothing, but
Well, we better knock off because I need to take a nap.
you know I do too. This has been really a wonderful tasting, Ken. we need to find some caffeinated coffees before we rise again.
Okay, Kevin.
Okay, thanks, Ken. I think we've made our point. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more shows like this.